hopping in, so we're going to hold just another minute or two, but we're delighted to have everybody with us this morning. It's going to be a crazy morning, let me just tell you. I think you'll have a blast.
Furniture.
And if you're on this morning, just be aware that you get to kind of call the shots as we move forward. That's what today is about. In addition to the information we're sharing, we're going to be asking you for advice on where the heck do we go from here. So make sure to make your voices known. Unless you're going to be mean, then don't say anything.
Wait, nobody we have on here is mean. That can't happen. Chase
I know
is
better
screening.
than that.
Chase is screening for those people.
Chase is one of those people.
Wrong.
All right, Kurt, we've got your answer. We can go ahead and say that now. Yep. That's all done. The question, just in case anybody didn't hear it before everybody gets on, is he wants to hear that all the seniors in the nursing homes have been vaccinated. And the answer is unless there's a medical viable reason for not, or unless the person absolutely refuses, the answer is yes. Woohoo!
All right. Well, there's still some more trickling in, but let's go ahead and get this day underway. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lyle Hanna. Glad you're joining the Hanna Resource Group. And Morris, we've got a lot of things to share with you today, and I hope you get a kick out of it. We love your input in the chat box, so don't hesitate to give us that. And if you want to hang around at the end of the meeting, we'll open it up so everybody can kind of share what's on their mind and ask other questions. We're excited today to invite some new guests. Some of you know we opened an office in Louisville last month, and that's been up and running, and we included more people because of that. But this last week, we opened an office in Paducah, Kentucky. And so Sonia Osmond is helping us run that, and Randy Fox, who's been doing consulting for a long time down there, is helping us. I hope they're on here. We've invited some of their clients and guests to join us today. So we're looking forward to an exciting meeting. We got the old standbys are here, so Jim Morris is going to share a bunch of stuff with us. Brad and Troy are supposed to be watching for color commentary, and we encourage them to speak up. Allison and Autumn's got a bunch of things to share. Chase has got a bunch of surveys, so we're going to do some polls during this to get some feedback from you all about where we go and what we do in the future.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You can go to the next one. I've covered everybody there. So we're going to kick off first with some update on the COVID status in Kentucky and so forth. We're going to talk about some return to work tools that we've created that we've been using with people. And we just thought we'd start sharing some of that with you all because I think you'll find those very helpful. Our clients sure have. And then we've got Jim, who's got a lot of updates on things. And so let's go ahead and get this day started.
All right, Lyle, I take over here because you can't be a star in something and introduce it to the whole group. So Lyle's been working really hard with a couple of people. I'll let him plug who all has helped him, but we wanted to share with you the brand new, hot off the presses, not yet completely finished, but this is what you're going to see coming out shortly. So Lyle has been instrumental in getting this done, and we just want to share it with you.
We can do this not just for ourselves, for our families.
We can do this for our community, for our friends,
for our neighbors,
para nuestra escuela y negocio.
For stronger today and a better tomorrow.
The COVID-19 vaccine is safe, effective,
and free.
So when it's your turn,
please step up and get the vaccine.
And let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
So I don't know, I should have like tried to pause it right during the cameo from our fearless Hannah leader. But that's a great job, Lyle. Do you want to share with everybody the people who have been instrumental in getting that done?
This is a Lexington Rotary thing. Lexington Rotary just wanted to help encourage more people to get their vaccines. So this is going to be running on our local TV stations, which cover much of the state, actually. Fox has agreed to carry it across the whole state, and others too. And it's going to be on social media. And this Lex Do This is a theme that Lexington started some time ago. It's really much bigger than Lex, but they wanted us to use that same theme, so we did. And it's just something we did for fun. And it should start coming out in the next couple of days. So thanks, Jim. And Jamie Schrader, the guy at the very end, that's our the Lexington Rotary Club president. And it's a really active group that are trying to do good things. So that's
and, you know, I think I'm just going to throw it out there. I think that you owe a plug to the company that put it together for you, the audio video work. So
yes, Wrigley Media did this for us for free, and they're based in Lexington, but boy, they're doing work all over the nation. And in fact, they're getting ready to produce the first and only ever regular television show from Kentucky. And it's going to be a riot. It's a judge show about judges and family judge. It's about family court. It's families suing families. Anyway, they're hiring 100 and something people for that. They're a fun group, Wrigley Media. Thank you for your help. All
right. So you want to take it back over so that we can, the link and so on, yes, we'll get that up for you. I just wanted to import it into the video so that we could have the video actually run the right way. We'll make sure Lyle can get that to you or post it in the... Keep in mind, this is not the finished product. They're still tweaking it, but they brought us this so we could put it on the slide this morning for everybody. So Lyle, you want to take it back over?
Thank you, Jim. And so we've got a poll to do before Autumn gives us our update. We just kind of figure out where we all are on this whole vaccine thing. Then we'll share the state results with you. So quickly, if you don't mind, give us your results. Let's see where we stand. Are we making any progress or what's going on? All right, we'll have some results for you in a minute. What, Jim, you gonna say something else?
I was just gonna say, I really wanna see participation because some of these are just interest things. Some of these are like, you know, the one we just had with the vaccine. But as I hinted at before we got started, I've put together several questions for you all. We really wanna know the future of the meeting because we want to make sure that this works for everybody. So when it gets to that point, both in the chat session, because some of these we don't have open comment, open answer. So in the chat session and in the polling, please participate. It's going to be really important. Sorry, Lyle.
That's good. Autumn Morris, what's going on? What's the status of COVID in Kentucky?
All right, so you can see from this is March 28th is the top one and the bottom one is April 11th. Our rates have increased a little bit, not significantly, but you see we have only 2 green states or counties now, and a little bit more yellow. They're crediting this to spring break travel, kids sports, and Easter. So not a huge increase, but it is something to keep on your radar. Update on vaccine status. I actually can't see the bottom of that slide.
Is it cut off for everybody?
Well, mine says, as of April 5th, vaccines are now readily available for all Kentuckians over age 16. So we're one of the early states to do that, and I think it's great that we're doing it.
Perfect.
Is that cut off on yours, Autumn?
It's cut off on mine, yeah.
Okay, hopefully it's not on everybody's, but that's the very bottom.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're at 48.25% of Kentuckians over 16 that have had at least their first dose, so good news there.
All right.
Want to cover on that slide, Jim?
Yeah, the only other thing on that slide is the biggest thing was what Lyle read. So in answer to the question earlier about the scope of impact and how many people have been vaccinated, before anybody could get to 1B or 1C, they were required to have a full 1A finished. So they went through 1A, which was supposed to be all of the nursing homes. I know there was still some residual nursing home when they went to 1B, but when they announced 16 and over, if you haven't gotten your vaccine now and you want a vaccine, chances are not only, I think last week we had doctor tell us that we could, or 2 weeks ago, that you could go late at night or in the afternoon on a Tuesday and be guaranteed to get one at a Walgreens. The reality now is, like at the Commonwealth Stadium, you literally probably could walk up with an ID and say, I don't have a reservation, but can I get my vaccine? And they probably would let you get it. I can't swear to that, but there's literally no wait. There is walk in, show them an ID, walk through, get your shot within 5 minutes of parking your car, wait the half an hour for your symptoms. Now they're saying 15 to 20 minutes. Walk out to your car and leave, in and out less than a half an hour. So the reason why they've gone to 16 and over is because of, wait, let me turn on my highlighter here. Sorry. This number here, the total number of allocated to this number, the total number of first dose, means that we're now sitting on 300,000 vaccines. So we're actually receiving more than we can distribute. And as you're aware, some of these have to be super refrigerated, super frozen. So they're concerned about longevity of maintaining the vaccines. So they are reducing the level. Every state's doing it. We're one of the earlier, reducing the level down to the lowest level that it's safe, because they're trying to get as many people vaccinated as possible. I will let you know that Pfizer is 16 and over. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are still 18 and over. Keep that in mind if you're looking at one versus the other, if you have a 16-year-old to 18 that you're trying to vaccinate. That's it.
Cool. Well, the numbers just came in. Do you want to say something about those, Autumn?
Sure. So it looks like we got a majority of people at least have their first dose, 69%.
Oh, that's a great number for any group.
Yep. 20% not interested. And then,
well, we were 24 and then we're 22, so 20. Oh.
Yeah, so it looks like everyone that's interested, almost everyone that's interested is been vaccinated. And only 8% that are interested and haven't been vaccinated yet.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Autumn. And we've got the next thing we're going to talk about is return to work. And we've got a poll to show on that. You want to put that poll up? We want to figure out what your status is on return to work. I know this might be different for you versus your company. Chase, are we supposed to answer this for your organization? Where is your organization? Yes.
Where's your organization? Yeah. Can you all see the last option that says still remote at the bottom? It's like partially cut off on mine.
Oops. Okay.
I saw it.
Okay. Making sure.
So Chase, you want to go ahead and do the return to work tool? All right.
Sure.
There we go.
Sure. All right. So if I could, can I end the polling so I can see where people are at? I'm just kidding. Let's see. Well, if you haven't necessarily made your decision as to what your return to work status looks like, just know that your friendly folks, the friendly folks at Hannah Resource Group have developed a return to work poll that we think would be very value add for your consideration process in the next couple weeks to months as you kind of think about what does the future of your work look like. Sorry, I'm also admitting people in the room while I'm trying to talk and in this poll.
That's okay. Charity,
let me
while you're doing that, Charity made a good point here. She says on the chat, if you're not in full screen, it's cutting off part of the page. So that might be,
okay.
you can't do it because you got to watch for people coming in. So there you go. Oops.
Yeah. So I'm going to share the poll while I'm talking. How about that? So let's see, partially on-site remote, 27%, very limited on-site present, 19%, and still remote, only 6%. But looks like a little over a quarter have never even left, and then almost another, what, 20% or at some level back on site. But I guess for the remainder of folks, those that are partially on site, that have limited presence or perhaps still remote, in the next couple of weeks and months, you're going to probably be thinking about what does work look like for us going forward. If you are kind of on the fence, or you might want to know a little bit more about how your employees feel about that process, we have developed a survey both for the manager level and the employee base to respond to. Obviously, we try to make this poll this survey as relevant as possible, but I will say that the manager one still has quite a few questions, and the employee one in particular has quite a few questions. And we think that it would be a great way for you to crowdsource information and feelings on how people are thinking about what they would like to see going forward, and then maybe even space planning and just resource planning as well. I know all of us have just kind of been surviving as is and trying to make things work. These surveys hopefully would give you a little bit more intentional insight on how to plan and what to actually put together for folks. And at the bare minimum, by polling and surveying your employee base, you're essentially getting them to, basically be able to say their piece or have some buy-in in the process, and at least feel like their feedback is being heard at the leadership level. Now, whether or not obviously your company chooses to go there that way with that they would prefer is a different story, but we do think it would be value add as you plan the next couple of weeks and months. And so obviously we are customizing it for different clientele, both for the size of the organization or just particular pain points that they're expecting, trying to kind of help develop that with them. And I think, here, the first slide here is just a preview of just some of the I guess the minutia of actually the detail of some of the survey questions and things that people will kind of have some like self-reflection on their ability to work remote, how productive they've been, how deadline oriented they've been over the past 12 to 13 months, and then going forward. I'll stop that. Jim, I don't know if is there a second question there?
No, that's it.
That just was a space
over there.
We do have one more poll though, for those that are planning that are still partially on-site or 100% remote, which are actually planning to return to the office, or do they think that they're going to be remote going forward? So if you'd like help with that, I guess this is a little plug, do reach out for surveying assistance if you think that it would be valuable.
And we've got a little bit more on that coming up here in a second too, Chase.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the feedback. This is good. Thank you, Chase. I know that I've talked to people about this and have somebody that's using it, and they're finding it very helpful. There's just a lot of things to think about when you think about bringing people back. So, all right, let's go on to Jim's got a legal update. And Jim, are you going to start with a poll?
I am, but we're going to get the poll first, the results from his.
Okay. Oh man, this is not a surprise. I don't know how you all feel about it, but more flexible combination of remote and on-site. Some people have said, forget it, I'm not coming back. If I have to come back, I'm leaving. We actually have clients that have had employees say that. So it's a delicate move when you start bringing these people back. And I think some of us have found that some of them are pretty darn effective working remotely. I know I couldn't begin to bring them all back because I don't have enough offices for them because we've grown a lot and there's just no space. So we're going to keep people working remotely. But Jim and Chase, you don't make some comments on this slide?
I mean, I think to Lyle's point, yes, that flexible combination is probably what a lot of people are anticipating or they're wanting. So again, the level of detail in these surveys hopefully will prove that in your employee population, and at least give you a little bit better insight as to what people are expecting out of you going forward. But you might be surprised. There have been people that say, no, I want to go back 100% remote. They like the structure of an office, and that's fine too. But I do think that there are still value add surveys to this planning process. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, actually, I have a lot to add here in just a second. So when we get to that slide, I'll throw out a couple of other things that I think are going to have an impact on how you can do that. And the questions that have come in are absolutely phenomenal. The question that I've gotten, two of them basically back to back. One said publicly, have there been any changes from the governor based on COVID screening? I've got a short answer and a long answer. And the other one was to me personally, but I'm not going to say who. Have there been any changes to the Healthy at Work guidelines? Should we continue to ask the daily temperatures and have temperature checks? So stay tuned because I'm getting ready to cover it. I don't want to bury the lead. You'll hang up on me and then I won't have anything to talk about. So before we get started on mine, I would like to put up a poll. Now, as I said before, I am really asking that you all think about these because I'm certainly willing to continue to do the COVID crisis mode. Let me go back up to the beginning and show you the crisis mode that we have on here. We talked about at the very beginning, we've been calling this crisis management for COVID-19. It sounds scary now. It was early. But now we're talking about a lot of things getting back to some sense of normalcy and how do we do things and what are we best doing. So I wanted to make sure to point out to you, we want this to be best for you. We want you all to tell us how can we better serve you, whether it's more legal hot topics, everything from employment law updates, which I'm going to give you a little bit on the last slide of some brand new things that may shock you, literally, about what's going on in the court system. If you ever thought you knew reasonable accommodations, wait till you hear the last slide. But is this something where we need to start breaking off and having human resources hot topics and get rid of the attorney that keeps talking stuff that you don't really want to know? Is this something where you want to have the continued legal and human resources, but not COVID? And then if there's something COVID related, if there's something small business related, if there's something that pops up with a new spending bill, we cover it, but we cover other topics. Or is it something where you just want to continue this? This is something that you're okay with. Let's just keep doing it. So you're going to see some more questions here in a little bit, like, how often should we do this? Do we need to back off to once a month, once a quarter, once a year? Please don't ever send another request, that type of thing. So we are asking you legitimately, what is it that you want to have so that we know what it is that you think would be important for your submission. And then we'll work it in. Whether it's Hannah finding other resources, other people doing things, or, all right, there we go. Wow, all right. So to the 11% of you saying, let's just keep doing this as long as we can, I think I'm excited a little bit more about doing a hot topic seminar where we can merge legal and human resources into that. I'm really excited about the second one. I'm also, I have to say, excited about the last two not being very many people, because I think it's great to have a mix. I think this has been one of the more fun things that I've ever dealt with over a long period of time. It takes a lot of work to put these together, but it has become more and more difficult to find COVID-related updates and things to bring to you. So I'm really excited about the possibility of switching over to still bringing COVID. For those that are the 11%, we're still going to cover COVID, but we'll cover COVID as a part of a larger seminar on, a primer on sexual harassment investigations, and diversity in the workplace, doing more of those things that we've already talked about some.
Yeah, and Jim knows we're already getting calls about union activity going up, and of course, the DE&I is a big deal, and we didn't want to take time away from COVID, but boy, those things are on our hot topics every week. We're dealing with those, so
And
we're going to add them.
Union is getting ready to be. If you have any size business, and even the really small ones, union is going to be a major issue for the next 4 years at least. So if you're not prepared, the pro-employee training, and I've actually flown around the country doing this at factories, you need to start focusing on pro-employee, not anti-union. Be very, very careful. Don't ever use that lexicon, even behind closed doors, because you don't know what's being tape recorded. You don't know what's there. But if you don't have a unionization structure where you're ready to address it, how you handle it, how you handle questions about it, what you can and can't do, where you can and can't go, you are in trouble if you're not prepared for that. So, yeah, those are the types of things we want to start talking about. So, okay, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. So, following up on what...
oh, no. Oh, wait, Jim. No, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
There's one other thing I want to talk to you about, and I just forgot to, get this in here. But if everybody doesn't mind, I just want Jim to himself for just a minute. I got to tell him about this. Hey, Jim.
Hold on, let me turn on my clock. I got to turn on my attorney clock.
Okay, because I got my letter over the weekend, okay? And I got to ask your advice on this. I got a letter from the Office of Unemployment Insurance, and it's addressed to me, and it's weekly entitlement. I mean, I can get $569 a week. I mean, almost $8,000. How do I go about getting that money? What do I need to do?
Yeah, well, the first thing you need to do is look and see if your Social Security number matches. Does it?
Uh-oh. They don't even have my right Social Security number on here, Jim. It's got some number I don't even recognize on here. What is that all about?
So, and believe it or not, this was not a plant. He wanted to throw that out there as a joke, but this is a reality. Our state unemployment office has been hacked. Our state unemployment office shut down last Friday, literally closed its offices, unplugged. Actually, I think it was Thursday, because I logged on to try to get my son's tax return, my youngest son, tax return, so that he could turn it in, get his taxes back. We couldn't log in, and he called me for help because I helped him walk through the system, and he couldn't log in. And I kept trying, and he couldn't get in. Turns out that someone, probably, not joking, probably the Chinese government, because this has been going on quite a bit with the Chinese government hacks, hacked into our system. And last Friday, our state closed down its unemployment because, and I quote, "We had more unemployment claims than we have workers in the state of Kentucky." So if you had people get fraudulent claims, you need to start reporting that to the state, but they will not respond right now because they literally shut down the system to clean it up, because apparently everybody's name, if you worked in the state of Kentucky, is out there somewhere. If you will recall, April of last year, I told you that the state unemployment office had been hacked. I think that everybody's names that were part of, and it doesn't matter that you didn't apply for it, because I think it's the workforce development, which includes every employer, everything. This is going to be a mess for a while. So it's frightening to think about, but I think everything has been hacked at the state level. I think that they were less than truthful when they came out in June and said, yeah, we had a slight information leak and we're working on it. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. They probably should have gone ahead, bitten the bullet, and sent out a notice to everybody saying your information may have been hacked. Here's the 3 reporting agencies that you can go to for the free monitoring that we'll pay for. That's what they should have done. They didn't do it. So I think now we're seeing the outcropping, which is now they have all of the information and they're starting to solicit, but they don't have the right tax ID with the right person they are shuffling the last 4 digits. So your social security numbers are not matching up. If you had, Katrina, you indicated that you had 6 employees. Find out if their social security, their last 4 of the social matches. Chances are it doesn't, which means their actual information isn't shared. What the person was able to get was the asterisks plus the last 4 digits, and they're just randomly sending letters out. So hopefully that's it, but I'm not positive. Terry, I see that.
And a lot of people are getting these letters. We're getting a ton of them. And some of you know,
200 match. Terry Begley, I'm sorry to hear that. That is crazy. So be careful of those. Tell all of your employees it's not on you because you didn't do it, but tell them they may wish to find out about the monitoring services that are out there through Experian and other agencies because you may need that. So,
and I think you've got to reject these letters, and you've got to let the Office of Unemployment Insurance know that they're wrong, you know, just to make sure that they don't. I mean, I think in this case, they may be paying benefits to somebody in my name, you know, and to a different social security number and a different address. So that's why we've got to keep them informed, but we're going to get more information on this. This is one of those things we want to add to our list and give you more feedback on in the future. So
that's
sorry for the interruption. We just did that kind of for fun, but Jim, I'll let you press on. We certainly got a lot of comments. Look at that. A lot of them do match. Actually, my last 4 digits are my wife's last 4 digits, which is really weird. But
so let me go ahead and roll through these. This first one is informational. I always pride myself when I'm asked general counsel guidance with my employers that I work with. I always give what I call a mix of legal and business. So you can always listen to an attorney, and they're the most frustrating people in the room because they'll tell you what you can't do, they'll tell you how to do it, and then they'll tell you how much it's going to cost. And then you look at them and you're like, so if I did that and if I followed everything you wanted me to do, I'd be broke. So I always tell people what they can do and how they need to handle things. And this slide here is a little bit of the, you know, business suggestion and guidance. And this follows up on Chase's, so I just wanted to throw this out to you. You know, with the proliferation of the vaccines and the rates going down and the state turning yellow and green instead of all red, there's a lot of friction in place right now about what do we do about bringing people back to work. The questions in the chat were awesome because it was literally what is bolded right here. The answer to your question, I know you're sitting there going, why didn't you answer? Well, because there's the next slide. Give me a second. Literally, Kentucky has not changed. May 11th, they came out with the announcement that everyone had to adhere to the Healthy at Work. Then they had individual ones. If you are an individual type of company, take a look because they had new guidelines. For example, barbers, I'm just picking this out, March 5th, brand new guidelines. How are they changed? I have no clue because they look identical to what they were, but they have a new date that says March 5th. So with regard to the Healthy at Work, the only thing that happened with the Healthy at Work, and you know what, I'll go ahead and put it down on the slide because it is one of the, or down on the screen because it is one of the things that we've gotten a whole lot of questions about. So Healthy at Work, the only thing that has changed on the Healthy at Work is right here. You must enforce social distancing. You must have universal face coverings. You must provide adequate hand sanitizer, encourage hand washing. You must encourage proper sanitation. And yes, to both of your questions, you must conduct daily temperature and health checks. Then it says, for more information, please review the order. You click on the order. The order is the original. It literally hasn't changed, which is frustrating to me. Then, like I said, I went to barbers. I clicked on barbers, and it says March 5th. So I read through it, and I was like, okay, well, what's different? Because I helped a barber shop out. I wanted to know what's different in here. And I read through this, and other than adding more and more and more, like, details on what they were supposed to do, nothing has changed. And so if it's important to you, if you have a specific type, if you're an auction house, bars and restaurants, you're at 60%. If you're bowling alley, construction, educational center, fitness center, funeral, government office, horse show, manufacturing, distribution, massage therapy. I mean, they have all kinds of specifics in here.
Wow.
But it is literally not much different. When I look at the minimum requirements, it sends you right back to this page. And so when I look at it, I've been disappointed in that. I've told you that for the last 6 months, they need to put new information out there. But this is the reason why it's on this slide. If you're going to do bringing people back to the office, you have a whole lot of considerations that a lot of them are not legal oriented. So I can give you the legal guidance, which is, keep in mind, Kentucky has not changed its policy regarding telework. You must require telework as one of your options. It's not can, it's must, shall. So, you know, the governor says we're getting back to normal, but yet businesses, if you run an office setting, you're limited to 60%. And I think that was up on the screen, but I won't bring that back up. If you look at offices, 60% capacity. And when you look through it, the social distancing requirements, cleaning, disinfecting, training and safety, and that's it. They don't have any other information that they're sharing on here about what we should do. That's trouble. And then it also says, go back to your minimum requirements. Well, minimum requirements are all of these things, testing in place. They have not changed the telework requirement. It is on several places on the governor's webpage and so on. It's also, by the way, in the, you know, I keep closing it and I should go back to it. It's in the mask mandate. And this was coming up on one of the next slides, but I might as well go ahead and just cover it now, which is, if you look at the mask mandate, where is it? We have a brand new mask mandate, March 29th. It is still required. Now you're going to hear a comment here in a minute where I'm frustrated about this because it says that they're following the CDC. Well, the CDC has just come out with something that makes the CDC sound pretty political and pretty frustrating to me on when they're trying to encourage vaccinations. Masks are no longer necessary, testing is no longer necessary, and quarantine's no longer necessary. But then when they're trying to encourage masks like this, mask mandate, now it is it's something that they want to rely on. So in case you want to know what it is, everyone in the state of Kentucky still has to wear a mask no matter what, whether you're in line, while inside, in a business establishment. This basically is a rubber stamp of the one in February, which was a rubber stamp of the one in November. He's now issuing them every 30 days because there is a law on the books, even with an injunction in place, that says his can only last 30 days. So he keeps issuing new ones. So that's the mask mandate.
Hey, Jim,
So
what's the link to that letter? What's the link to that letter? Is that easy?
To the executive order?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll copy it and put it in the chat so everybody has it. That's the governor's order. If you're looking for the business related ones, the healthy at work, I want to put that up there too because everybody has a different kind of work. Sorry you're seeing me work on this, but I want
You're so darn good at it. I tell you what, it's impressive. You can flip and cut and paste and go. I love it.
Well, it's more important to get the information out to you guys than to make everything look so pretty and perfect on the screen. So that's why we like to put things out there and show you what we're talking about. So I hope you all appreciate that too. So if you need either one of the links, the Healthy at Work link or the governor's letter, those are both there. So back to this for just a second. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it, but the biggest thing I had as advice to somebody, if it's not broke, If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've had a lot of businesses say, you know what, we think the governor's at 60%. Should we just go ahead and bring people back? And I will tell you, I have family members, just like what Lyle said, I have family members that have said, look, if they make me go back full-time to work after I've had this whole thing set up, I can work in the middle of the night as long as I get my work done. They make me go back and sit at a desk, I would go crazy. And so keep that in mind. If you're looking at your business right now and you're like, you know what, things are going pretty well, don't fix it. Figure out a way to incorporate it. The other thing is, one of the bigger issues I've noticed is no reasonable notice. You can't announce on a Friday, hey guys, Monday morning we're going back to the office, because people have child care, elder care, they have other issues, they've got doctor's appointments they've scheduled. They may have an Uber order coming in from the Whole Foods or Walmart or whatever. They may have deliveries coming to their house. You need to give them an opportunity to adjust back to this. It took us 6 months to get used to working from home. It will take a while to get used to going back to the office. Think about the equipment. You sent home computers, you sent home monitors, keyboards, desks, chairs, modems, everything. It will take a little while, and maybe not in Lexington and Louisville and Bowling Green as much as Los Angeles and New York, but a lot of these people don't have their own transportation. Now they have to carry something back to the office that is big, bulky. Think about the logistics. Give your people the time. Give them a window of time and say, over the next 2 weeks, we want people to pick their time slot of coming in. Or, more importantly, consider a hybrid. And that's where I said, especially since Kentucky's still mandating limitations. So think about a hybrid, a couple of days a week, 3 days a week. Start thinking about ways that you can get 60% of the office. And when this whole disaster is done, think about how much money you can save in an office setting with 1/3 of the footprint you had. Because now you don't need to have 60 cubicles, you can have 20. You don't need to have everybody in the office, you can do Zoom. And from somebody who, I used to travel, for those that don't know, I used to be on an airplane at least 4 times a week. I averaged 200 flights a year. I flew everywhere from Florida to Minnesota to Arizona to Pennsylvania to Los Angeles, representing businesses around the country. I'm wondering now, and I went before a lot of state legislative bodies. I testified and I've advocated on behalf of businesses. I'm now wondering, how much of this is going to be Zoom? How much am I going to do right here and I won't be flying anymore? So things change. And think about how much money you can save not flying your lobbyist around, not flying your CEO or your legal representation around, because now they can handle things sitting in their office, answering the phone, Zoom, with a judge or with a legislator, or just having management meetings. You don't need to go to New York to have your meeting. You can have your meeting right here, save the square footage, and then do what we're doing for a group of people that business that I run. We're literally flying all employees to Key West with their spouses for a business meeting. We're going to have a business meeting for a day, and we're going to let them have 2 days off. You now can do that because of the amount of savings that you'll have on your rental. So,
if you would like to apply to work for Jim, just let me know, and I've got an inside line. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Thanks, Brad. Brad just said, think of the food and bourbon savings. The food, yes. The bourbon, I still save and collect all the bourbons. Those are special. All right. So I'm done on this page. I just wanted to think outside of the box. Continue to think outside of the box, because you have an opportunity to really save on behalf of your business and invest in your employees in other ways than just the square footage footprint that you have. All right, Kentucky updates. We're not going to waste a lot of time, but I want to tell you a couple of things. 413 was on the books, but not signed yet by the governor. He did not sign it, but it did become law. It is retroactive, has a lot of other activity in it than just being a pool, but that was the biggest part. It's literally going to trigger kind of what's going on with our state unemployment office right now, which is allowing investigation into fraud and so on. The next one created a new section for liability protection for owners of premises during a declared emergency. This is the one I've been talking about that I thought was going to be law forever, and it took forever for it to be adopted. Honestly, some of these tail end ones were done at the very last minute because they really didn't think the governor would object to them, and they were handling all of the veto bills earlier. The governor did veto certain parts of certain bills, but they were technical vetoes. He allowed the rest in. These are the ones that impact you all, so I wanted you to know what's going on. So Senate Bill 5 allows for liability protection. You cannot get sued now by somebody saying, I came into your restaurant and I'm pretty sure I got COVID and now you owe me money because I got COVID. If you follow the the protections, you follow the directions, you didn't engage in like really stupid behavior, you're not going to be able to be sued under our laws, which is awesome. You may not think it is, but there are attorneys out there representing plaintiffs looking for a loophole to be able to sue somebody for something stupid. So that's a big one on the books. The next one is really important. It has gotten zero information, zero play, zero discussion. You're hearing it here for the first time. Tyler, if you're on and listening, this goes on our blog. This is personal identification information, PII. It is now criminalized under the state of Kentucky. If you release someone's PII and it can be proven that you did so with any kind of malicious intent, it is a crime. It is a misdemeanor, but it is a crime. It establishes penalties for the release of PII, and it creates a civil cause of action for anybody who has been harmed by the release of their PII. If you are a business and you handle anyone's private information, credit cards, HIPAA compliant, social security number, speaking of your wife's social security number, Lyle, she does not have a claim against you though because you're in the same family, so she can't sue you, but have her call me, I'll work on it with you. Maybe I could find a way around it. But if you have a business,
I really appreciate that.
If you have a business that handles anyone's personal identification information, keep in mind Kentucky has now codified the criminal aspect of it, the civil aspect of it, and penalties, and the penalties are pretty large. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're in compliance. You should already be doing it. There are federal laws in place. You're supposed to be protecting it. But Kentucky built its own statute saying you can't disseminate PII, especially with malicious intent. If you send someone's personal information, and you know what? If it's done for a criminal purpose, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. We had the Capitol riots. We had people destroying people's careers because they happened to be in D.C., which, by the way, before all of this happened, I was there on a weekly basis, so you could have thrown me into that pool. If you destroy someone's life by putting in their home address and saying, send information here because this person's a bad person, that is their personal identification information. So even your home address can fall into that category. Be careful. Executive order was issued. This is the one that we just talked about that I put in the chat session. Mask mandate was continued for another 30 days. That's the executive order 2021-212 that was dumped into the chat session. You can get it there. Then I put down here restaurants and offices at 60%. Other businesses have specific info on the healthy at work. I've already kind of blown up that page because I talked about it already.
Somebody did ask if the 60% is based on the building capacity or just whatever your previous status was.
It's supposed to be based upon the healthy status, which logically would say 60% of capacity of the building. But then they don't really define it very well. It just says 60%. if I were arguing on behalf of a business and whether it could go above that, I would argue it's based upon the square footage, the recommended square footage of the business building.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that you could have a savvy employee who gets a thirsty attorney trying to sue you for forcing them back to work, and you have more than 60% of the employees there. I believe it's based on building. Don't quote me on that because I haven't looked. Once I'm done with all the slides, while we're answering some of the questions, I may go in and really quick pull that up to make sure whether it says 60% of building capacity. Some of our state website information is not really up to date, up to information and so on. So honestly, I think while we're on this, if you click on the 60%, I want to see what it says. It says 60% of employees physically present, which is really, you know what? I had this stupid question, not a stupid question, I'm sorry, a legitimate question. It is a stupid policy question. What if there's two of us in the office? Does that mean none of us can ever go in? And it was not a stupid question. It's one of those that makes me angry at the policies, because this literally should say, unless you have less than 5 people, then 60%. And really, honestly, you look at some of your locations, bourbon distillery, you have, it should not be limited to 60% of your employees. It should be, can they socially distance?
And we get to 6 feet.
Sure, maintain 6 feet. Get rid of the 60%, because this is literally March 5th. You must ensure no more than 60% of employees are physically present in the office on any given day. Why? Why can't it be 60% of capacity? Why can't it be socially distanced? What if, and this was a question on here, we were talking about plexiglass, we were talking about all the different features. What if we resituate, we put everyone in their own offices, but yet the answer to the question, Lyle, literally is 60% of employees. Why?
Okay.
That's an executive order. We have to comply with that.
I think we ought to mention here that this is a great one, Jim, for us to, so Jim and the rest of our team, we are often sending stuff to the governor and other people on the governor's team when we think things are out of line. And why don't we do a follow-up on that one?
I think we will, because that's literally one that if you're trying to get people back into work, we have vaccinations, we have comments that if everybody's vaccinated, they can all get together and take their masks off. But then we don't have this updated. And I'll give you even more of that. You know what, I'm gonna grab it right here. Speaking of things that are not updated. So this is if you click on more information about COVID, about the vaccine on the KY COVID website. So this is literally right here. Frequently asked questions, learn more. It's 18 pages or 21 pages long. No, we're not going through it. Doesn't matter. What I want to show you was how silly I think this is, because the first several pages talk about persons in phase 1, existing health conditions, understanding how the vaccines work, second doses, and so on. But the first few pages, this is the only thing that matters. All persons 16 and up are eligible. Geographic areas, those are okay. But then this thing about this whole rest of this for page after page about why are we in 1C and which medical things get into 1B and why can't I get these? And I'm sitting here going, 16 and up, who cares? Go get your vaccine. There's no standing in line now for 1A, 1B, 1C, but we waste a lot of time on it. So there's a lot that we're going to try to talk to them about, because the website is now really terribly out of date. The last update that it shows on the governor's activities is, I think, January. So he's not done anything according to his own website. Their Healthy at Work isn't being updated since May. Some of the things just aren't jiving. So we'll work on that. We'll report back when we have the information. So CDC, have I mentioned on here, wait, we should have had a poll. I want to do a poll. We're going to do it right now before we get to this. But I also should have had a poll that said, how many times do you think I've mentioned that I'm not happy with the CDC? Because if you've been on every one of these, it's 20 or more. If you've been on at least 10 of these, it's 8 or more. So, but we'll get to that in a minute, and it's not a poll. So let's go ahead and do the next poll, because this is important since we're talking about this right now. We want to know, do you want to consider this or continue this weekly or bi-weekly? Do you want to do this monthly? Do you want to do this quarterly, like once every 3 months, maybe once every 6 months, or you want to do this depending on topic?
Hey, Jim, while they're doing that, there's just been an announcement made by Bashir that he set a goal of 2.5 million vaccines, and he said if we reach that, he will lift capacity restrictions on bars and restaurants.
Well, that's great.
Any business?
I got a couple of private questions that I'm going to ask, and I never put names out there. So this might be outdated now. But is the mask mandate in Kentucky quietly expired? The answer is no. You just saw that brand new one. What else is expired that the media isn't covering? Nothing in the state of Kentucky, because we're not getting new policies from the governor. It's been frustrating because we have all of these executive orders in place, and then we don't have the follow-up saying, I'm willing to change this or so on. As Lyle said, there's an announcement now about 2.5. We're 1.5 right now. 2.5.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I was thinking about 1.8 first doses, but.
No, 1.8 is the number of vaccines that have been allocated to us. If you go back,
you're right. You're right. We're at 1.5, so we got to get another million.
Yeah, and it's going to be really almost impossible to get to the 2.5 because there's only 3.2 million people that are even eligible over the age of 16. So 2.5 is meaning only 700,000 are conscious objectors, or just can't get it, won't get it, for health reasons can't get it. I'll tell you, for example, pregnant people can't get it. If you're nursing, you shouldn't get it according to the CDC. I'm sorry, rephrase.
No.
You should ask your physician because there's a possibility of adverse reactions. So, Lyle, there's your answer.
Okay.
86% monthly or bi-weekly or weekly, and only 11% depending on the topic, and only 3 of you want to switch to quarterly or semi-annual, 3 to 6, depending on the number of people who participated. That's really shocking. I thought we would have more in the quarterly and monthly, but I think what we're going to do, and here's where it becomes important in the chat session. So before I make this next comment, any of the questions that are being asked of me for us to answer at the end of this, Chase, Allison, Autumn, anybody, make sure you're grabbing those and putting them somewhere else, because when I ask this, it's going to blow up the session below. If you sent me a private question, send it to Autumn, Chase, or Allison, because when I get ready to ask this, it's going to be crazy the number of questions number of comments we're going to get. All right. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cover a couple of things before I ask this question. So let me tell you CDC and why I'm frustrated. So the CDC came out, our state relied on it, with everyone needs to wear a mask. Even if you've been vaccinated, we don't know whether we believe you still can deliver the virus. You can still be ill from the virus. You can still get the virus. So you still have to mask, you still have to quarantine, you still have to do all these different things. Except Now that we're trying to get people vaccinated, let's draw a distinction between those that are vaccinated and those that are not. And this is where politics plays a part, and the CDC should only be science. The CDC should not change its opinion from day to day, and yet this is what they came out with. So, first, I'm covering the top. This is not related to vaccines. If this is important to you, because some of you I know use international workers, there's a massive change, and it comes in this second bullet. Oops, is my highlighter not working? This second bullet down here. Sorry, where did it go?
There you go.
There, I went the wrong way. 1 second, there you go. This second bullet down here is where you want to pay attention. The first one is proclamations from why is this moving on me? I don't know what's going on with my mouse. All right, so these are proclamations from the new administration. These proclamations have travel within the China, Iran, South Africa, Shenzhen, and United Kingdom, Ireland, and Brazil, 14 days, all this different stuff going on. Then they rescinded the UK, Shenzhen, Ireland travelers, meaning it no longer allowed travel back and forth with certain things. They then required all of this testing, all of these vaccinations, with the exception of, and this is the critical thing, if it relates to critical infrastructure, you can skip all of these requirements. They did not define what critical infrastructure is. They did not give us any guidance or information. But if it relates to the new administration's critical infrastructure, UK, Ireland, and Shenzhen can avoid the 14-day quarantine, the 14 days before and after, the testing before and after, and so on. If that's important to you, make sure to click on the U.S. State Department, because they have information on there about the national interest exceptions for international travelers from those three areas. If you're not part of critical infrastructure, you don't get to use that. Next, on April the 2nd, the CDC announced updated guidance. This is where I got frustrated with them. If you're doing domestic travel or if you're departing on international travel, if you're vaccinated, there's no more requirement for testing before or after. There's no need to self-quarantine after you travel. If you're not vaccinated, we're going to require a 1 to 3 day testing before, 3 to 5 day after, 7-day quarantine. With a test, 10-day quarantine if you refuse to take a test. This is recommendations, but then the national airlines, Delta, United, American, International, they're all jumping on this and using this as well. So they had no passport. They were talking about a potential passport vaccination. It's unconstitutional, but then what they're doing is they are announcing differences between vaccination and no vaccination to basically require you to do it. My frustration is not with that. I'm okay with that. My frustration is when you tell us a mask mandate, you have to continue to wear it, you have to continue to social distance, you have to continue to quarantine, but if you're traveling, you no longer have to quarantine because you've gotten your vaccine. That's called politicization of the whole thing. I don't like that. International travel returning, you should do the 3 to 5 days, even if you've been vaccinated. You should wear a mask, you should self-monitor, and you should social distance, wash your hands, all the common sense things. They didn't change anything for vaccination on returning, but if you're leaving the country, you don't have to adhere to all those different policies. Recommendation, not requirement. All right, new information for everybody on Cobra. This is really important for anybody who has Cobra coverage, because as I told you before, there's a new basically stipend, stimulus, call it what you will, premium assistance is what they are calling it. It's not assistance, it's 100%. We've talked about the 100% Cobra coverage benefits from April 1st through September 30th. A lot of the businesses I've been working with were asking, what the heck does that mean? Because we've already got people on Cobra? Does this mean we just start extending it and they get it for free? And it was like, you know, I'm working on it, trying to get to the bottom of what they mean. It's really crazy. Give me some time. Well, Department of Labor Employee Benefits Security Administration, or EBSA, came out with new frequently asked questions on April the 7th. The frequently asked questions did some things that you all need to understand. If you don't understand this after I talk about it, because it was crazy hard to digest even the FAQs, you're going to need to get some legal guidance and assistance because it's really hard to put this into 2 slides. I mean, it was impossible to boil this thing down. So the first is deadlines to elect fully subsidized Cobra coverage are 60 days. It's not 1 year. That's critical because last year, in the middle of the year, if you remember, I told you that they had an extension of the applicability of what was a triggering event, how long did you have to go ahead and elect coverage. They had extended it for a year. That does not apply to this brand new free, fully subsidized Cobra. Your employees have 60 days to do that. The AEIs, those are your affected employees. Something eligible. Oh shoot, I had it spelled out. Where did I put it? I'll have to get that for you. I was trying to be cute to save space and I forgot what they were. Somebody in the chat session, throw it up there if you know what I'm talking about. It's accommodated employee. Come on, somebody throw it out there. All right, don't worry about it. These are your employees that have been impacted by a triggering event, okay? So anybody who's been impacted by a triggering event prior to April the 1st has the ability to choose 2 completely different coverages. You can, so for example, if you got Cobra in mid-2020, you can elect between having your coverage through the beginning of April the 1st, but you have to pay your premiums, or you can elect the free coverage from April the 1st through September the 30th. Thank you. Assistance eligible individuals. I knew it made no sense at the time that I couldn't remember it. These are the people that basically are allowed to get coverage under this, either one of these Cobra extensions, whether it's the 1 year or now this new triggering event. So you ask me, hey Jim, why would anybody want to elect getting their premiums before April 1st? Why wouldn't they all elect the free coverage? Well, keep in mind that this is a triggering event. You're unemployed. Well, now you're back at work. Or you're unemployed, but now you want to do something different. And you'll see some of the issues down below that they have not yet addressed, which are creating a whole bunch of problems. Not below here, but on the next slide. So you have an opportunity as an employee to select either getting the coverage that was before April 1st or getting the coverage that triggers April 1st. You're not going to get both. It's employee-based. You need to make sure that you provide your employees the new policies. Yes, guess what? Next coverage, you get to see the brand new model notices you get to send out for Cobra. Everybody go, yay! I know all the HR people are really happy about this, but you now have to send out, your 2-page Cobra notice. It probably just became about a 4-page Cobra notice. I know, those are awesome, and you love them, and now they've changed. And yes, you're going to have to go back and figure out anybody before who should have gotten coverage. You're going to have to go back and figure out how to send them a new Cobra notice. You may need to reimburse for Cobra premiums paid if they fall within the new premium subsidies that started April 1st. You may have to pay those back, reimbursing those to your employees. ARPA explained, that is the American Rescue Plan Act. If you don't know what that is, it did not modify the definition of the election period in any state that has many Cobra laws, so if that applies to you, keep that in mind. Eligibility for Medicaid or Individual Affordable Care Act does not make an individual ineligible under the premium subsidies. There was a big question about that because Congress is not good at writing laws. They're just not, especially when they say, hey, we're going to throw out a $1.9 trillion subsidy package tomorrow, and we need everybody to vote on it. Wait, how many pages? Just vote. Just vote. So one of the things that's happened is they threw in all kinds of things about where it wasn't eligible, and there was a big question about Affordable Care Act because that's private insurance. Does that person lose the subsidy? Oh, wait, no, we didn't mean those. What about Medicaid? Oh, wait, no, not those either. Sorry. So this is, you're seeing fallout in the frequently asked questions about all the things that they forgot to cover and the things that they, honestly, nobody ever read it. So they just brought it into the law and now they're trying to fix it. Employers are subject to the existing civil penalties for subsidy-related failures, including the failure to provide the required notices. So wait, Jim, what are those required notices? Oh, wait, they're right here. So they came out at the same time as the frequently asked questions and said, yeah, we know you're going to ask us what all these questions are and all these notices. So the assistance eligible individuals, hey, here's where I defined what it was, and I couldn't find it. It's on the next slide. Those individuals who are experiencing a qualifying event between April the 1st and September the 30th, those individuals get a notice separate from the next one. Those individuals who were enrolled in Cobra previous to April 1st, but who were never enrolled in Cobra to begin with. The third one is the one that I was talking about as well, an alternate election notice to be used by plans subject to the mini Cobra laws. And then the notice of expiration of the premium subsidy. And then a summary of the premium assistance and request for treatment as an assistance eligible individual. So all of these things are available on their website. And I was trying to see if I could find that so that I could get that to you all. Give me a second and I'll pull that down here in a second and bring that to you. It's really fun notice information that you guys are really going to be excited about putting in and figuring out which ones go to which employees and going and backdating the ones that you sent out the wrong notices because now they've told you an AEI currently enrolled in previous to this but did not enroll in Cobra. So you're going to have to cover those as well. So the frequently asked questions left open some things that I don't have the answer for you, but we suspect in the next few days and weeks we're going to get more answers. Number one, we need the IRS to weigh in on the Medicare tax credit to reimburse you for anyone who is an AEI that gets benefits on the subsidy from April 1st to September 30th because you have to pay 100% of their premiums. Then you're going to get reimbursed on your Medicare tax credits. They also fail to address what occurs when an individual who is qualified prior to April 1st, who has a second qualifying event after April 1st, and whether they are an AEI even though they had it both before and after. The answer is probably yes, but they didn't weigh in. Then they didn't address also, what if you laid somebody off or there was a separation or a voluntary reduction in force and they then come back, are they qualified? I'm sorry, that one was just whether there's a mutual separation or voluntary, can they qualify for the subsidy? The last one they didn't address, what happens to somebody who is involuntarily terminated? Think of your factories where you laid them off. They are an AEI and then they're rehired. Do they lose their eligibility or do they continue to be able to get the subsidy? Those things have not been answered at all, so that's something that we're working on. So, did I cover all of these? No, there's another whole list. So, wait, no, I duplicated it. Yes, good, that's not it. All right, the what about page. So I'm going to cover one here that's not yet covered. Kentucky will be the last of these to do it, but I'm going to throw out one to you for New York State so you can start to think about what this means for human resources. Last week, Governor Cuomo, please no comments in here. This is not a political statement, so nobody start talking about whether they like or don't like. I really don't care. I think New York is a disaster right now with the way they're running everything. So Governor Cuomo last week signed a law that made it legal for recreational marijuana. Not a political statement. This is a question for you. New York has a state discrimination law that makes it illegal to discriminate against any employee, prospective employee, or candidate, and most states have this, for engaging in any activity that is legal under the state's laws. Now they've adopted a recreational marijuana. You cannot take any action against any employee for engaging in any activity that is legal under state law in their own time. This is not about somebody smoking a joint while they're on the job and they drive a forklift, roll it off a cliff. Our state unemployment would still probably say that they were eligible, but that's a whole different ballgame. But literally, you need to start thinking about these types of things, especially if you go into other states. I have had to address the marijuana in different states. New York is a new one. I've got a client who is based in New York, and I'm expecting the call today on what are we supposed to do now? Because you cannot discriminate against that candidate, employee, or applicant. But yet, it's funny because it says, unless allowed under any other federal law, regulation, or blah, blah, blah. I don't know whether everybody realizes this or not, but our federal government has declared marijuana illegal. So here's a state that passes a law that says no anti-discrimination against anybody using marijuana, unless, of course, you're following any other laws of the federal government or state, and then there's a federal law that says you can't smoke marijuana. This has created a tremendous nightmare, not just New York, this is nationwide. I dealt with it first in Arizona, then in California, then in Illinois. I'm dealing with this nationwide with the drug testing, discrimination laws. If you don't have someone assisting you, you really need to start looking into that, because the anti-discrimination laws of states, when they're allowing marijuana use, when it is illegal under federal law, it'll blow your mind if you knew how you had to figure out how to handle things and how you couldn't. So the last thing on here is the one I'll cover the last one, which will blow your mind across the board. Yes, it's the last bullet. Don't read it yet. Don't go there. So I have nothing to report on the Supreme Court. We're waiting. Nothing to report on OSHA because they're going to throw out this emergency temporary standard. You have 30 days to do it. Get it done. Wait, we're going to get it done by March 15th. We guarantee the Ides of March, we're going to come out with a new emergency temporary standard for mandatory masks. We're going to do it. Stand by, wait, hold on. On second thought, vaccines, all these states are opening. It's unconstitutional. Maybe we shouldn't do a mask mandate. So they literally are just dragging their feet. They issued the focus that we talked about for last month, and now they're just sitting on it. There is no emergency temporary standard. I believe that the urgency is dissipating. I believe that it is unconstitutional. I believe they couldn't figure out a way to do it. So they're literally just going with their emphasis on focus on businesses not following it, and that's it. We're waiting on Congress with the filibuster rule. Manchin came out and said he will, under zero circumstances, allow the filibuster to be undone. Reconciliation has been allowed again 2 more times this year, which means 2 more spending bills can be done in this calendar year without requiring filibuster rules to be adhered to. So there's going to be a tremendous amount more spending coming through. But the Democratic control of the House is down to 2 votes, which is creating a world of trouble in the House now. As most of you know, the Senate is a 50-50 split. If Manchin goes with the rest of the Democrats, then they have the ability to just have the vice president break the tie. But the House is down to 2. That's because 2 people left to go into the administration. A third member from Florida, Asa I don't want to butcher it, Asa Hastings, I believe. She passed away. They passed away unexpectedly, so they lost 3 votes. They are temporarily down to only a 2-vote margin. So some of the centrist Democrats are creating a nightmare. So the House is slowing down, which is really surprising because they were passing everything. And now they're really tight on their votes. So we don't have a whole lot to report. This one down here on the EEOC conciliation, EPA, SEC, HHS, and Social Security, there's a whole lot of congressional review acts that are being suggested to try to undo the Trump-era regulations. Stay tuned. Those are kind of hanging in the balance. I suspect that those are going to be big announcements in the next couple of weeks. This one is huge for you. March 29th, the EEOC came out and said they're going to start the collection of the EEO-1 Component 1 data forms. That starts on April 26th. The deadline has been extended until July 19th. That is for both years, 2019 and 2020. The IRS issued guidance on April the 2nd with regard to the retention tax credits. It's in Notice 2021-23 if you're interested in it. You are able to claim refundable tax credits against your Social Security taxes up to 70% of a qualified wages paid from December 31st through June 30th. This is where you were asking about whether you could get, how you were going to get your money on when you voluntarily did this. Keep in mind that's still capped at $10,000 per employee. There's some other limitations in there. If that's important to you, it's on the IRS website. I did have that up. I don't see it up there now, but it is. I'll dump that in there if I get a chance. The last one is the single most mind-boggling one that you will ever see this week, and that is this. The 11th Circuit came out and made a decision for Winn-Dixie. If you're interested, I'll get you the site. Winn-Dixie got sued by a blind person because their website did not allow for him to read their website as a blind person. He got sued, they got sued, he won. Went up in front of the Court of Appeals. Winn-Dixie filed bankruptcy. The case took about 5 years, but until this was undone, it was the law in the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit set it aside and said websites are not required to adhere to every single disability, blindness, hearing, anything else, because a website is not a public accommodation. For those of you that didn't realize that it was, the 3rd Circuit and the 9th Circus, which is the crazy one out west that I don't listen to anything they do except don't ever run a business there because it is crazy. They've literally been told 5 times now, starting last week, that the Supreme Court, ending last week, on Friday, the Supreme Court entered a ruling against the 9th Circuit and said, we've told you 5 times that if you're going to do limitations against churches, they have to be the same as things you're doing in the secular society. 5th time, Friday night, they reversed the governor's order saying you cannot have private church services in your own home with more than 3 families, but you can have 5 families get together for something that's not church related. And they said, in the opinion, for the 5th time, quit issuing anti-church, anti-religion orders. But the 11th Circuit came out and said your websites are not, we're in the 6th Circuit, by the way. The 11th Circuit came out and said public accommodations don't apply to websites, but the 3rd Circuit, which is Pennsylvania area, the 9th Circuit, which is California, Nevada, Hawaii, Alaska, Washington, and Oregon, I believe that's it. Arizona and Nevada. They are on the other side saying that your websites all have to adhere to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Keep this in mind if you run a website, because chances are this is going to end up in front of the Supreme Court finally, so the Supreme Court can decide whether all websites have to have translation available for disabled, viewing capability of everything that you do for visually disabled. So keep that in mind, because this will be the next big thing coming. And I would venture to guess 95% of you had no clue that the Americans with Disabilities Act applies to your website. So I do want to pick up another poll while this is up on the screen. I want to throw this out as a poll, and while it's there, I want to also throw something into the chat session. So throw up the third poll about the topics that are important. And at the same time, I want to throw up there 2 other questions at the same time, so you guys are going to have to multitask. 3 questions in the chat, actually. Number 1, how best can we make this webinar relevant for you as we proceed? That's individual to you, your company, whatever it would be. Number 2, along with that, really similar, what topics would you like to see addressed? Number 3, what topics do you really not care to ever see before or again? So, Chase, do we have that poll? Can we get that up there? There you go. So the main poll, some of these we can't put up because fill in the blank doesn't work for these polls, for the chat poll or the Zoom polls. So what do you want to see? More Kentucky, more legal, more open topic, more wide-ranging guests and topics. Then the last one I wanted to, so I want to see all of these dump into the chat, because what we're going to do is we're going to save this chat down when you guys are all done today, and we're going to digest this and come up with answers as to what you all have decided is critical for us, and it will shape the next webinar, the topics of the next webinar, how much we focus on national versus state versus COVID versus whatever. So when we say what would make it relevant, we want this to be relevant. So we want you to throw that out there. What other topics outside of these 4? Put that in the chat. What other topics do you not like? Put it out there. The very, very, very last one is, I want to know on a scale of 1 to 10, and it will hurt my feelings, but that's okay. How important have these webinars been to your understanding of the impact of COVID-19? Since the next one will never ever say COVID-19 as the heading, and it will never ever say the very first page, and this came from our very first one we ever did. We've carried this throughout. If you have never noticed, everybody's wearing a mask. We're going to get rid of the masks. And we're not going to call it crisis management for COVID-19. We're going to go with a more inclusive of all of the different issues that are out there. So, that's it. Start throwing the questions at me. We're going to give oh, there we go. There's the answer on the poll results. And I'll want all of these, by the way, when we're done. Chase, Autumn, Allison, whoever's gathering them, because we're going to have a post-mortem discussion about all of this that we've done on COVID and figure out what else we want to cover moving forward. So that's interesting. I like seeing all the different things.
All right, Jim.
So that's it.
Thank you very much.
And I know we had some questions that were thrown in. I know we're at an hour and a half, but I'm going to stay as long as it takes to answer all the questions that were posted. If they were to me privately, I'm going to try to read through all of those. If you send them to Chase, Allison, Autumn, or they captured them, we'll get all of those too. So I've loved doing this. As long as you all will have me, it's not going anywhere in terms of me. You know, you may have different legal experts on for different things, but as long as you all want me to come back, I'll come back. but I just wanted to find out what topics do we need to start talking about. So there you go. Your HRCI codes are going away in 10 seconds. Go ahead and start asking, Allison.
All right. So we had one question about the FFCRA, the voluntary extension. We didn't talk a whole lot about today, but do you know whether employers are required to restart the clock on 80 hours if they choose to extend the time, or can they extend based on what's left of the original 80 hours?
So that all reset on April 1st. It's my understanding of the 80 hours. Okay. Yeah, that's the reset date. We talked a little bit about that last week, but that's my understanding is that it's all reset last week. And some of this is still really fresh and new. So whether that's just FFCRA, I believe that went a little broader than that, because they then allowed the schools that are not closing, but they're impacted by COVID-19. Remember, we talked last week about how the FFCRA has been extended to include the EFMLEA. So if you want to get more information on that, I'd encourage you to go back and look at last week's slides or listen to it, because we did go into a lot of detail last week.
Okay, if and when the governor relaxes the mask mandate, how would this interact with like OSHA recommendations, especially for a manufacturing environment?
So that's a great question. It's going to be based upon OSHA's guidance, and right now OSHA is recommending that you wear masks, but they're doing it through the enforcement suggestions for the industries that are large pools of sick people and things like that. So it's not really a mandate. It's all state specific. For example, and I'll give you the perfect example. If you go to Florida, Florida has lifted the mask mandate altogether. There is no mask mandate. I did talk about the problem with OSHA and mask mandates a couple of weeks, a month ago or a month and a half ago, because that's where I said, stay tuned, because you're going to see a big issue where the state governors are issuing mandates saying no more masks. And then you've got the OSHA saying, but wait, we believe that this is going to cause illness. So stay tuned, because the next couple of months where things are being lifted, but OSHA's not changing, they're not giving any guidance, it's going to be interesting. If I were you, number one, adhere to your state policies. So he's issued mask mandates, and he's telling everybody in the business sector, you must do these things. It's not a can, it's a must. So right now you're under a governor's mandate, follow your governor's mandate. If anything supersedes that from OSHA specific to your business, if you're running a factory and they have a factory, for example, they came out last week with Mine Safety Health Administration with new COVID policies. I didn't include it on here because I haven't had a lot of cold questions. I haven't had a whole lot of mining questions, so I didn't include it. But they just came out with new COVID guidelines for mines last week. Obviously, you have to comply with that first, because they are the overarching control. So if OSHA comes out with a factory specific, follow the factory specific. If they come out with an office specific, follow it. If the CDC comes out with a guideline, right now, you've got to follow it until our governor gets off of saying all of the, we follow all of the CDC recommendations. You have to keep following them.
Okay. And I think you've covered this in a previous webinar, so I don't know if we want to just direct them there, but in regards to initiating a vaccine incentive program to pay out a monetary incentive to employees that have been vaccinated, are there possible legalities to be mindful of, and do you know of organizations that have rolled this out successfully?
Yes, to both of those, to all three of those. So yes, there is a problem now. The new administration de-incentivized the vaccines by making it clear that you could be found to be engaging in discrimination by allowing an incentive. There were certain entities, some of them on this call, that are big companies that had implemented a policy. I think some of those have been pulled back by some of the bigger companies, i.e., not the company name, but they were offering $250 for vaccines, $150, a pizza party. And then people are like, wait, now you're discriminating against the conscious objectors who can't do it. So there is a concern about potential discrimination. So be careful and mindful of that. The biggest suggestion is, if you make it a pizza party and then the person is a conscious objector, figure out a way to let that person participate, maybe not in the pizza party, but buy them a pizza. Why? Because you can't treat them differently based upon their protected status of being a conscious objector to taking the vaccine. So be careful. We did cover that. It was a month ago. It was a huge part of our new EEOC guidelines because they came out with this new directive basically saying you can't discriminate on religion, you can't discriminate on all these different bases. So go back and take a look at those slides.
And then we have a couple of Cobra related questions about those changes. So do we know how the DOL is defining gross misconduct in regards to the termination reason for Cobra purposes?
Not yet. We were hoping for some frequently asked question answers to that. I mean, you know, if they engage in an intentional act to undermine your business, I would strongly encourage everybody to keep pushing your those challenges. Don't just cave so somebody gets the free money, because it's your obligation to truthfully sign that paperwork that says that they're eligible for it. You start signing that with somebody that brought a gun to work and injured somebody and you didn't fire them for willful misconduct, it could blow back on you, because this is a tremendous amount of outlay from the government. And I don't know that we're to the bottom of how much of the investigations are going to be had against employers. I do know that employers are in the crosshairs from unionization to the Department of Labor, wage and hour, EEOC. There's a tremendous amount of effort to go after employers, so don't make yourself a target.
Okay, and
all
then
right. So I saw a question on there about the guidance regarding masks for fully vaccinated workers that are around workers not vaccinated. There is no difference in the state of Kentucky. Every single employer or every single employee must wear a mask regardless of vaccination. This is the part that I need to see if there's a way for us to talk to the governor's office about, because the CDC has said that people who are vaccinated don't have to follow the same rules. Now, I understand this one was asking about around unvaccinated, but the reality right now is they have to be wearing their mask no matter what, unless they're in an enclosed office by themselves, not walking down the hall. But if you go to the bathroom, you have to wear it. If you're walking around, you have to wear it. If you're in a meeting, you have to wear it. Doesn't matter.
Okay, we have, let's see, if no one elected Cobra last year when they may have been laid off, does that make them eligible now? So that would depend on the
That's where you need to pull up the specific requirements under Cobra, because it all depends on when they were eligible. And there's another example that was given. What if their 18 months ran out in March? So you have somebody who got it in 2018, their benefits ran out in March. Are they now eligible under the new one in April because, or let's say it ran out in April? Can they now be eligible in April? I mean, there are the interplay between the subsidy and non-subsidy has not yet been answered. There's a lot of questions out there. It's going to be a nightmare for the next couple of months.
I think we hit
all right. Thank you.
I think so.
That cover it? Good work. All right. During this call, I've actually gotten a communication from a local Kroger saying that they had 5 vaccines that they need to use before 1:30. And now it's down to 2 a few minutes ago. So it's interesting, Jim. We mentioned earlier that they're readily available, and that's certainly an interesting example. This is not a Kroger that keep up with closely. We just got some communication on it. They've got Johnson & Johnson shots over on Alexandria Drive. But
wow.
If that's happening in one place, you can bet it's happening in a lot of places.
Well, Johnson & Johnson, for those that might be interested to drive over to Alexandria, is a 1-shot, not a 2.
Yeah. So anybody
Although
else?
there are people with side effects in different parts of the country to the Johnson & Johnson. Welcome to everybody has an opinion.
I'm putting the phone number in here right now in case somebody needs it. Visit.
So I saw one of the comments was that daily temp checks are pointless.
Yes.
No one come to work and they don't have a temperature, and I so agree with that. The problem is, though, that it is part of the requirement of the healthy at work until they fix it. The other thing is, even in some of the restaurants I've gone to where they're testing people, I'm not sure anybody's paying attention to the temperature. They're really not even taking it. I don't know how accurate it is.
All right.
Oh, wait, I did see one thing. Somebody just said, and it's a private message, but Bashir, this just came across Business First in Louisville, a headline, that Bashir has outlined a goal to remove most COVID-19 restrictions. I wonder if that's the same thing you're talking about, Lyle.
Yeah, it's his announcement's quite extensive. I mean, he's just trying to put it out there because he's thinking if he can get to herd immunity. That's why it's a pretty long shot goal, like you said, but he said, I'll make you a deal. Get me to 2.5 million and I'll get rid of a lot of these restrictions.
Yeah, well, 2.5 is going to be really hard to get to.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him for trying.
No.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Listen, we'll try to start announcing these. We always think we can do them in an hour, but there's always so much good stuff. So if we're going to be expanding that a little bit, we'll start announcing these as an hour and a half, if that's okay with folks. Right now we're on target for a meeting in 2 weeks. If something wild happens, we'll step up that timeline just to keep you informed. But don't hesitate to contact us between times. The recording of this and all the slides are on our website, easy to access. And so thank you to all of you. Stay healthy.
Thanks,
Any
everybody.
final words? Anybody want to say anything? I opened it up, but nobody's really